Today we just got another great news for XRP holders. Now this is not a way where the SEC is kind of still having the authority, because the way we understand this, it's not a settlement, it's a surrender. That's what the leading lawyer here is giving us. What does that actually mean for the price action? That's something interesting to watch, because few days back we were discussing this, like a week back, saying okay, this is Bitcoin doing this and we see similar pattern coming out. Maybe we are going to do similar moves. And if you go look at XRP price right now, yeah, that was kind of a good judgment. And if you actually look at that in detail, you do have to understand that, okay, that was different assets you were comparing in terms of price action, both of them slowly moving to the upside. But when you actually went in, cross comparing them, we had this thought process coming in, right? I even did an entire video on that, showing you guys that something is coming. I don't know how fast that's going to be, but something is coming based on all that we have seen till this point. Now, if you actually go into the market and look at those, yeah, we are seeing volume coming back in. We are seeing it moving up. Especially this is important. This is XRP against Ether. So most likely against the altcoin market, XRP is going to outperform. This has been a region, and that region has been now broken to the upside, whether it's a rounded bottom or an accumulation, which would be a reaccumulation at this point, because this is your accumulation during this time. You went up. Now, remember, what was the high back in 2021? It was not the actual peak of the charts here. You have a long way to go back to those ranges. So here, we are just starting. Look at this. This is a rounded bottom pattern coming in. If you actually do that cycle and pop back up, XRP is about to do something monstrous. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. If you're actually looking at some of these, you do understand we shared this. Now, yes, it was the end of last month. It's been 20 days. But if you actually look at that, that was correct. Or if you look at something recent, it was like, yesterday. We were giving you guys the highlight. Okay, watch this. This is a short term, this is a micro, this is a macro. All the understanding and what's happening there, the price is moving up. So once you understand how the opportunities are watching and evolving in the market, you kind of have an advantage and edge in the market. See, these were something we discussed like a few days back, highlighting the fact that, okay, if this is to play out, most likely Bitcoin is to go do something like this on shorter horizon, right? And now when we actually go on Bitcoin, this is what we are watching. I'm like, okay, that means we are playing out. But what's the difference? Here, that's on a 4-hour chart. And what we are expecting here is on a daily. So if we do get that on a 4-hour and repeat that a couple of times, that means on a daily, we are going to get that. That's having an absolute advantage in the market. So on a daily, if you move back on a daily chart of this asset, what you want to look at here is the entire spectrum here. That gives you more weightage in understanding, okay, this is going to be an area where you come back down and bounce back up. That is going to be monstrous. But there is some differences happening here. What is that? You're actually watching the price putting in this pattern. What is that pattern? It's a rising 2. I was thinking like we may actually do a rising 3, but we went back up and closed it there. So the daily close came up with a great news saying bulls are still active and they are still in control. Why? If you actually look at this, you kind of get that idea. Now, about XRP, what are we doing now? We just got a big candle, a daily candle moving from this range, touching this range and now coming back down. So if you notice that, you'll actually understand, okay, we're still in this accumulation range. We haven't actually broken back to the upside. So we are going to see a lot of these movements where you may have to retest the range. Now, this time, 0.5 is going to be a range of support. Now, if you actually zoom in on that, what do you actually see? It actually shows you that the price actually had a pop with that news. Now, if you actually try and plot that into a resistance range, this is going to be 1, and then you have a trend line. I would say that's important. You need to actually put in your trend lines and see where we are actually going with this. Because if you actually try and plot that, say to get it on a clear end, we can actually use a line chart, and that kind of gives you a better understanding. Yeah, we are already out of that. So that won't be a big resistance here. The only thing which we are watching here is this range of 0.54. As soon as the price breaks above 0.54, you can expect big things coming into the price action. Maybe we may do 100% move in a week. That's something which we cannot actually deny. I think that's going to come in. That's something which we can look at. Why? If you go back a few weeks, we were talking about this possibility. Remember, this should come up here. Why? Because we played these kind of movements here, whether it's a macro, whether it's a micro, we did those. But eventually, we also had this double bottom pattern before we end up, whether that's here, or even the days back in August 2022. We did follow those. So if we are watching the entire history playing out, that means we have a higher odds of doing that. Now, you can look at Ether. It doesn't actually show you that amount of bullishness happening here in this asset. It is still trending lower, mind you. On a daily chart, when you actually look at this asset, you will actually understand the fact that, okay, you're actually putting in lower highs and lower lows. These are not that great thing to watch. Why am I saying that? Because when you actually try looking at this, what you understand is this, right? This is how the price is moving. So you do have the support, agreed, but what if you break that to the downside? That's a concern, right? Maybe that's one of the reasons why the XRP Ether chart is showing you it's gonna pop. So we discussed about this too. If that's so, the amount of money which is now in Ether is actually way more than a lot of different assets. If you actually compare that, that's the amount of money in there. That's huge. Look at the daily volume. It's low, much lower than where it used to be. For some reason, you understand that. Now, we are starting to catch back up. That is another positive news. So if the money is to exit Ether in different assets, you will see money flowing in. So that's one of the reasons why I was focusing on this, and we discussed about this before. But right now, you understand the fact that, okay, the SEC case, that kind of issue is kind of going out. They're being hammered here. And the way Brad highlighted this, I mean, it's absolutely stunning to see SEC is getting hammered for all those bullshit things which they were doing. Now, when you actually go through the market and look at how things are evolving, it kind of gives you more and more idea of like, look, things are evolving quickly. And I actually saw a chart from Credible where, he was actually giving you the critical idea of watch this, the price action is showing you something similar, which means you may actually see the price running back up. There is a possibility Bitcoin can actually run back higher. Maybe we are going to go into that 33, 34, 35 range. If that's so, that means the crypto market as a whole is going to get some movements. Now, remember, it actually does look with a lot similar with the macro market. See, we were sharing this like, maybe a week back saying, guys, watch this. I think we are about to do the same. And at that time, what's the price of gold? I was saying we are about to go back up, but what was the price? 1857. So if you actually go look at the chart now, we're getting close to 2000. So that really was a right observation, which I shared with the SI family. So again, if you guys are actually looking at things like that, and you want these updates at the right time, then you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description if you are watching in the YouTube. So now, if you actually get back into that matter, you understand that, okay, gold is going up. You're watching that. Dollar is slowing down. It's still flirting with that level. You haven't actually confirmed a double top here, but you're still following that trend line. If you break that to the downside, It's great, it's cool, because on the RSI, you're watching that trend line has been broken. It's retesting and it's getting rejected. So the odds are higher that this asset or the dollar may actually start slowing down. Now, I'm thinking like, okay, what should actually happen for dollar to start slowing? If the rates are kept higher, dollar is kind of strong. If they hike the rate, dollar remains strong. So if the dollar should go down, what should happen? Either they cut the rate or these guys are entering on a real war. Where it's not just, I'm not in, I'm just giving you weapons. It would be more like I'm involved. So we will see something coming. I don't know what it's going to be. No one knows, but we're trying to see that. Because when you go on the stock market, this is the signal you're getting that. Last time we told like, okay, we are getting rejected. So if we retest and bounce here, that is going to be something positive to watch. But if we break back to the downside, it will not be. Because look at the oil. It is trying to get back above that trend line. Because if you watch this, compared to that of dollar, oil still is following the macro trend line. It just came back to that trend line and it has some room to go to the upside. Yes, it is true that on the short term, you do have a resistance here, which you are flirting with. So if the RSI breaks that through, I would say, okay, that means this range is now a support. You may even retest that and bounce, which would be a double bottom, and then you go back up. Whoa, that would be something bad to watch, because when oil goes up, you will actually watch dollar going back down. Now, understand, we discussed about a lot of different things recently, but you all understand the fact that if that's also happening, the amount of money which will be coming into crypto is going to be huge, huge. Why? If the banks like these, the Bank of America, if you watch those stocks drop like crazy, you now have to think 10 times like, whoa, what are you really watching? Because if you actually say some of these banking stocks, if you actually watch them break this support, it's going to be really worse. If they bounce, okay, you have some more time before all those happens, because right now we are nearing that area. Look at this. If you break that, it's okay. You're going to watch a ton of money coming into crypto, but on the other side, you're going to watch something bad happening in the economy. What do I mean by that? Yeah, this is a short-term chart, but as you go zooming out on a macro chart, you would see what I'm talking about. I mean, when we break these, it's not a time where the normal guy would be happy. If you are not mentally prepared to watch these coming in, it's not going to be great. But if you are in crypto, the difference is when the banks start failing, people want to take their money out some way. And that's one of the reasons why earlier this year we saw banks collapsing and crypto moving up. That would be some of the other stuffs happening. Say, whether it's XRP, whether it's XLM, we are watching a double bottom pattern coming in at a time when the strength is increasing. So this kind of gives you a signal to watch for certain assets. Some of these assets would be actually great. It would actually show you, yeah, that's happening on a weekly too. So if that's true, now you're watching at those assets like this. I'm like, okay, you came back down to the previous resistance, which is now acting as a support resistance zone. If you can bounce off, that means a lot. Now, yeah, you can go on to a daily chart and look how the volatility is acting, because now you have a system where that on a daily chart, you're watching like this is what the price action is showing you. Let's reduce the volatility and look at it. Yeah, this is what the price action is showing you. At the same time, you're watching the RSI showing you it's making a double bottom. It wants to burst, meaning this is your resistance. If you break this range, we are at that point now. It's not like, we may take another week to do that. We are at that range. So if we do get that breakout, it's going to move higher. Now, that's just one asset. If you actually go back into XRP on that sense, what are we doing? The RSI is already showing you, I'm going higher, Baba. I don't care what you think, but I'm strong. That's what it is saying, right? And if you actually look at that, okay, on a normal, price action perspective, you would actually say, okay, this was the previous level of support that then turned into a resistance. That's now turning into a support. You're bouncing off. I mean, you're putting in a new trend. Great. Now you can actually add on the MACD on that, and you're looking at the MACD showing you, okay, I crossed back to the upside here. Now I'm confirming that that's my trend. I'm trending to this direction. That is fine, because whenever you see these kind of things happening, that shows your downside is kind of done. And that's where a lot of people are still worried about. And I'm surprised, to be frank. I'm surprised when a lot of people are telling you that the downside is still there. You're going to see the price dropping to these levels. For some reason, I have a hard time agreeing with those. Because as of now, unless the world is upside down tomorrow, you will watch the market going back up. Because what we are watching here is something similar to that of what happened here. Or if you raise that and say, nah, it's more like these double bottom, it's more like these double bottom, or it's almost like this, yeah, I'll have to agree, because that is what the price action is showing you. That means this asset is showing you something which is interesting, meaning it is going to go to the upside. Now, when you take that with respect to Ether, that's where you're like, okay, there is going to be a ton of money moving out of Ether. I'm not saying it's all coming into XRP, but understand this. This is a long-term chart. When you zoom in, what do you see here? The micro level, not the macro, the micro level shows you this was the range. You are just breaking through that. Last time when you had a range and you broke through that, it really was a great 3 days. That was good. Before that, yes, it was still a good time to be in the market, but you didn't have all these clarity, the regulatory clarity back then. And that's what I believe is attracting a lot of people, because when you actually zoom out, look at the amount of volume involved. That's a lot. So now, coming back to that point, look at this. We are starting to make a new trend here. What is that trend? That's what you really want to actually look at. That price action is showing you that it is now trending like this. So if you do move up here, that's going to be a significant move in terms of dollar. Because remember, when I posted this in terms of Bitcoin, I told you one is going to be 30% move. Yeah, okay. And the macro is going to be 40% move. And what we saw actually if you actually go into the price action, you'll actually notice the fact that in the price action terms, our door actually did 70%, 80%. Was actually a big number. It did complete those big numbers with that volatility. Say we actually take that up, we try measure that up to get a perspective. Yeah, around 80%. So in Bitcoin terms, it was showing you 40, but in dollar terms, you did double that. Now take that idea into this and ask that question, okay, into Ether, into Bitcoin, against these assets, if XRP is showing you it can actually go back. Now, this is just reaching the previous level of resistance. Not assuming that it's going to pop through the sky here. I'm just going to be staying conservative, saying, okay, this is going to be the macro range of accumulation. How? You zoom out and you see that structure here. Now, that was bullshit, but this should be more accurate. So this is going to be a huge range of accumulation where if you break through that, it's going to be nuts. Agreed. It's going to pop through. At that area, you'll have to think about more like close to 3 digits or 3 digits kind of things. But here, if you actually watch this happening, that means on the other end, you're watching 20, 30x of XRP in dollar terms. That is going to be really interesting for each and every one of us who are holding on to these assets. But again, if you are that guy who has a lot of different assets in the market and this is one of the biggest chunk and this is your long-term asset, now we are talking seriously, meaning you're actually looking at this asset not as a short-term move. You are interested in this asset to hold on that to long-term. So the trend in Bitcoin kind of directs the market. Each time, keep this in mind, each time when we have broken these kind of pattern. Okay, remove this, it'll give you more clarity. Each time we have done this, Bitcoin has done something great. Each time. So should this be different? I don't think so, because if you're actually watching these trend line and the break, you're doing like a $6,000, $7,000 move to the upside. So that means we can actually go to $35,000, $38,000 if 4 more kicks in. At that range, you're breaking through this. You're breaking through this. That's a huge signal. If you do break that here, in next 2-3 weeks, whoa, that's a huge signal. That means you're gonna see multiple pops here and there, maybe a $5,000 a day, $10,000 a month, that kind of thing is gonna come in. Now, that's where you're looking carefully at the macro part. That's where you're trying to understand how the macro is evolving. Because today, Fed just came out with the policy talks, blah, 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 and they gave you the understanding. So break it down and you'll have the macro in your hands. If you need one-on-one session with me, going through your portfolio, discussing each and every doubts and questions you have with me, now, yes, you can do that. You can actually come here in the Patreon and you can actually access that. So if you receive value, please do smash that like button. I see a lot of people compared to the views are smashing that like button. I'm really thankful for you guys. And if you receive value from this video, again, please do smash that like button. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.